of ambulances came through. Issues of oxygen were very much pronounced. Human resource, and sometimes we've talked about many of these dilapidated health facilities. We have a number of specialized health facilities in the county. Aspects of affordability is what the common Ugandan always talks about. Now that and much more is what we're going to be focusing on tonight. Welcome to Spotlight UG. All right, welcome back from that short break. We would like to thank every one of you who is watching us both on air but also online, and we'll be streaming this up to the hour of midnight. We want to say a particular thank you to the Ministry of Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance that powers us to come through with this, and a special thank you to Ministry of Health that has for the last 3 weeks been giving us an update and accountability on what exactly is happening in the sector. You're probably asking, who do we have on the show tonight to respond to issues of health infrastructural development, which is very key to improved healthcare service delivery? Infrastructure does not only mean, the buildings that will be set up, but all that necessities that are needed, including human resource and equipment that will deliver health services to the Ugandan, the taxpayer. Tonight on the show, first of all, let me introduce to you first our speakers.
Engineer George Otim is the Commissioner of Health Services and the head of Health Infrastructure Department at the Ministry of Health. Prior to this appointment, Engineer Otim served as the Ministry of Health's head of Project Management Unit from 2018 to 2019, served as a senior consultant with Tricon Consulting Engineers Uganda Limited from 2011 to 2018, was a senior lecturer at Ndeje University from 2008 to 2018, among others. Engineer Otim has also supervised the design and construction of over 250 health centers across Uganda from 2018 to 2021. He holds, among others, a Master of Science in Civil Engineering from Makerere University, a Bachelor of Engineering in Civil and Building Engineering from Chambogo University, and a Diploma in Civil and Building Engineering. Engineer George Otim is the head of Infrastructure Sub-Pillar in COVID-19 response, among other key achievements, and will be part of the panel tonight on Spotlight UG starting 10 p.m.
We are delighted to have you, Engineer George Otim. We are so much used to having only doctors, but tonight we have an engineer because we are talking infrastructure. Say hello to our viewers, Engineer.
Yeah, thank you very much. Welcome our viewers.
And well, we can't wait to hear, having overseen construction over 250 health centers, there is a lot of experience in that regard, and we can't wait to drink from your knowledge. Next on the show still, we do have
Dr. John Baptist Wanyahe Nambohe is the Commissioner of Health Services, Emergency Medical Services at the Ministry of Health. Prior to this appointment, he had served as Commissioner of Health Services Ambulance Service from 2016 to 2017, District Health Officer Mbale 2010 to 2016, Program Manager HIV/AIDS IDI from 2009 to 2010, worked with Mbale, Manafwa, Katakwi, Amuria and Tororo Archdiocese as Senior Medical Officer and Medical Officer from 2003 to 2009. He holds a Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery degree from Mbale University of Science and Technology, Master of Science in Leadership and Health Systems Management from UMU, a postgraduate diploma in Medical Entomology from UMI, among others.
And we are delighted to have you, Dr. John Baptist. Say hello to our viewers.
Hello, viewers. I'm glad to be here. We are ready to interact. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. The hashtag is SpotlightUG, and send in your questions and responses. We will be able to get to those, and we'll have your questions answered right here on Spotlight as we continue to look at our health infrastructure. Like the saying is, health is wealth. We know that we have different levels of healthcare systems. Probably most of you know we start from the health center to all the way to the national referral centers. But there's been one issue that we keep referring ourselves before we are referred. That's one of the issues that we will probably be talking about at a later stage. But let's delve straight into where we stand with regard to our health infrastructure. Dr. John Baptist, I'll start off with you. What's the current state of health infrastructure, if you would, in an overview, give it to a Ugandan?
In the country, the health infrastructure we have been developing significantly, and we have had the system develop right from the health center tools up to the national referral hospital, and the system right now focuses on the health center 3s. There has been significant upgrades of health center 3s to health center 4, and others to general hospital, then others to the regional referral hospitals and other specialized institutions. And engineer team will give the specifics in that area.
And of course, we would like to definitely, thank you very much, Dr. John Baptist. Engineer Tim, where do we stand currently? Because like I said in the beginning, the gaps in the infrastructure or some of the challenges, because these are some of the things you could probably still be working on, were much more pronounced during the COVID-19 pandemic. Where do we stand currently when it comes to infrastructure? We've heard about health center 2s, 3s, the specialized hospitals, we have the regional referral hospitals, we have district hospitals. Just how many do we have?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like he said, the health infrastructure starts from health center 3 up to specialized hospital. I'm going to start from up. Currently, we have 4 specialized hospitals in the country. We have the pediatric surgical hospital in Entebbe. We have Mulago Women's Hospital, that is a specialized hospital. We have the Cancer Institute, which is a specialized hospital. We have the Art Institute, that is also one of the specialized hospitals. Now, the other specialized hospital that is supposed to make the 5th is called Mulago Specialized Hospital. In fact, it's called Mulago Super Specialized Hospital, but we haven't opened that. There's work ongoing to ensure that this is open. Because of COVID, a lot of works were not able to be completed. The spaces that we used to treat the COVID patients were not complete, so we had to first hold the construction. But we think maybe in the next few months, we should be able to get back to work. Of course, that will depend so much also on the wave 3, COVID, that wave 3 which we are expecting. The prayer is maybe it delays a bit. We first do a few things.
Is it already confirmed? It's like something, it's a done deal that we'll be having a 3rd wave?
Yeah, the rest of the countries have had the 3rd, even the 4th. The doctor is going to help on that. I don't think we are exceptional because many countries have already had the 3rd, they have even gone to the 4th. But of course, the prayer is, if it has to come, it should delay so that we first fix a few things. Of course, the other thing I want to say is that nobody can say we have prepared enough for COVID and we are now ready, let it come. Even the developed countries that are economically ahead of us, they have never been ready. You're aware of what took place in America, how they died in large numbers. India, we import a lot of medical equipment from India, but when they had COVID, this 3rd wave, for them they have already gone through 3rd wave. So we think it is there. It's just a matter of timing. But of course, the best thing is to urge Ugandans to really follow the standard operating procedures.
True.
God loves us. We have had a few more time to first relax. Otherwise, it should be there.
Okay.
So those are the specialized hospitals. There are 4. We're expecting
Okay.
the 5th. Now, the national referral hospitals we have in the country are 5 in numbers.
Okay.
We have Molago National Referral Hospital. We have Kirudu National Referral Hospital. We have Kawempe National Referral Hospital. We have Naguru. You can also call it China Friendship National Referral Hospital, Naguru. We have Butabika. Basically, those are the 5 national referral hospitals. Now, the next step are the regional referral hospitals.
Okay.
In the country, currently, we have 15. A few years ago, we had 13, but recently we have added Kayunga and Yumbe in West Nile,
Okay.
making 15. There are 2 more in the pipeline. If all goes well, maybe 20, 21, 22, or 23, 24, 22, 23, we could have another 2 upgraded. That will make us to have 17. But currently, we have 15 regional referral hospitals.
Okay.
The general hospitals in the country, I might want to refer to statistics, but we have 167. That includes. I've been counting the specialized hospital. I've been counting the public ones only. Even the national referrals, those are the public. The combined general and public, private and public are 167.
Okay.
The public, I think, are about 67, but I need to confirm this data. But we have 167.
Combined public and
Combined
private.
public,
That's at general hospital level.
General hospitals.
Okay.
Then the health center 3s. The health center 3s in the country, currently we have 200 and...
Health Center 4.
Health center 4s, we have 169.
Okay.
No, the 169 are general hospitals.
Okay.
Then health center 4s, we have 236. Health center 3s, we have 2,870. Now, we expect an upgrade to continue. And in this financial year, that is 2021-22, we're expecting to upgrade another 77.
Okay. Now, when you talked about super specialized hospitals, I know someone's mind immediately ran to the Lubowa super specialized hospital that made lots of rounds in the news. Is that on the health side, Ministry of Health, public side, or do we also consider it on the private side?
Now, the International Specialized Hospital of Uganda, which is at Lubowa, is under PPP. Yeah, that is
Public-private partnership.
Exactly. Now, the developer, Finansi, is going to construct. First of all, they looked for the money by themselves. So they're going to develop the facility. They're going to equip it. They'll do the recruitment of the medical staff. And then they run the facility for a period of 8 years in order to be able to recover their money. Now, once they have recovered their money, that property, that hospital becomes Uganda's hospital, public hospital.
Many Ugandans have asked at what stage we are. Do we expect any completion pretty soon so we can start counting the 8 years and then it's handed over to Ministry of Health?
Yeah, like most of the construction projects in the country, this is one of those projects that has suffered from COVID seriously. Unfortunately, in Uganda, for us, we risk, but this other part, they don't. Now, the first lockdown, they had to just shut down the whole site and were not able to construct at all.
But we know construction was open as with regard to the
when the first lockdown was lifted, the construction resumed, but they also had challenges. Now, the agreement that the developer had with the lender is specific to time within which you must perform. Now, because of the lockdown, of the first lockdown, the developer needed to quickly negotiate with the lender so that the cash flow is not tied. Now, what happened, because of that lockdown and other factors, of course, there was bad weather and then there was some lack of capacity by the contractor. All this made the project to lag by 1 year.
Okay.
Now, the lender decided to first tighten the key and did not release the money for about 6 months. until we had to go through some negotiation, and the money has now been released, and the construction will.
Has resumed.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Engineer Tim. Dr. John Baptist, how has COVID-19, the pandemic itself, and right now we're thinking about third wave, fourth wave, how has this affected health infrastructure, especially the roadmap of the developments that you were thinking about as Ministry of Health?
Yeah, Mildred, before I go to that, let me comment about our delay to go to third wave or fourth wave. The efforts which have been taken by government are the reason for this delay for us to go into the third wave. Because as you observe, our neighboring countries have crossed. Kenya, you have had almost all the surrounding countries, the developed countries, all are in third, fourth wave. But Uganda, we have not moved there because of the decisions which were taken by government. Some of the decisions may have been drastic, but that's what it takes in order to delay or to even avert this pandemic. During the first wave, when we had that lockdown, it delayed and the first wave spent some time. When we got the second wave again with the interventions, including lockdown, the enforcement of the standard operating procedures, the strict testing across our entry borders, all these has delayed the occurrence of the third wave. And we think that even this third wave can be delayed more so that people can get vaccinated, and when they get vaccinated, even if it occurs, we do not get into critical and severe cases which will need a lot of HDU or ICU hospital space.
Okay.
So this is the target which the government is looking at, that we must do everything possible so that the third wave comes and it is mild. Okay. Ugandans can continue doing their work as it should. The way it has impacted on our infrastructure development is both negative and positive. Ingrid Tim was giving the other part of the negativity, where it has delayed some of our investments in hospitals. But the positive part on my side is that it has made Uganda as a country realize that the health care system needs to be invested into, because COVID closed all our borders and all of us had got to use these few facilities. So we had got to focus energy to develop the missing gaps in order for us to answer the question. You saw a situation where we had got under the direction of the president to make sure that there are enough intensive care units,
yes,
high dependence care unit beds. So all this, the target of the country was, let's have about 1,000 HDU and ICU beds so that it covers the whole country. So in that way, it has helped us to develop that capacity. Even if COVID did not come again, these beds will be available to support us in other conditions. It has helped us to improve the training of the human resource.
Okay.
In intensive care, critical care. The country has refocused on building this capacity, and we think that if we proceeded with the investment in human resource the way we are doing in preparation for COVID, then we shall have a responsive, well-skilled, adequate human resource to deliver the minimum health care package for the country. Okay. So it has both the positive and negative effects as far as COVID is concerned. Directly to my sector, which is deals with the emergency response, the first arm of the emergency response is on first responder, that when there is an emergency, there should be someone to help you at that point in time, even if you are not in the hospital. That is the pre-hospital area. And then the second part is on transportation with care. This is where we establish the ambulance system. This is the most well-known part of the emergency care response system.
Okay.
And it has helped the country to think about our ambulance system. How is it? And we are in the process of establishing the National Ambulance Service System with all its components.
Okay.
From this, we realize that even the ambulances we have in the country before 2020, before the outbreak, all these ambulances could not meet the minimum standard.
We will delve deeper into the ambulance system because I know that's one key issue that came through during the COVID-19. Away from seeing all these sirens around, the issue of the quality of ambulances came out straight. People died waiting outside in ambulances, but we'll be delving deeper into that. Coming back to you, Engineer Tim, oxygen is one of the key issues that came out during this second wave, and it could as well, God forbid, come out in the third wave. How was this handled? Because it was very clear that we didn't have enough capacity to supply all the health facilities. The oxygen plants could not be able to supply cylinders and the oxygen itself that was needed. How did we handle through that phase? Where are we currently when it comes to oxygen capacity of the country?
Yeah, like my colleague has said, this COVID actually has been an eye-opener. And one of the departments that benefited even more than all the others has been the health infrastructure. Now, before COVID, it was very, very difficult for you to put a requisition or put an order that we need to do so much. Yeah, it is true, in the second wave, it was not easy. Because one of the very important components of this treatment, which is oxygen, was not adequate. At some point, we needed 13,781 cylinders per day to be able to treat the patients that we had in the hospital. And we were able to produce only 3,005 cylinders. Now that gives you a deficit of 10,776. We were operating basically between 17 to 20%. Now this is from the oxygen plants which we bought 4 years ago. And that time, they were not very inadequate, but somehow because of the need for oxygen, they were able to, we were struggling with it. So when the second wave came, we were really tested. We were tested and we felt it so much. I must say it was difficult, it was very insufficient, and many Ugandans could have really passed on because of oxygen. But nonetheless, a lot has been done. We are not at zero. The last time I was in the studio, I promised I would bring an update. Now, after COVID, the second wave, we had to do a projection for the third wave. Of course, the prayer is, let's continue following the SOPs so that we can extend the time that this third wave will happen. Maybe if it could go even to January, the better. Now, we did a projection to take care of 5,100 patients who are critically ill from COVID. That assumes that Molago will have about 1,000 patients, and all the regional referral hospitals will have a minimum of 100 patients. Those are patients who are on oxygen.
Well, let's take that back. What projections are we looking at? And that is in case of a third wave, right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
So we are thinking that if the third wave is to come, we should be able to treat 5,100 patients who are critically ill. Those are the people who are on oxygen. When we made a projection, that totals 27,600 cylinders of oxygen per day. Now, these 27,600 cylinders per day takes care of the other essential services. Because before COVID, we had other cases that needed oxygen.
Yes.
So the 27,000 is basically 5,100 new cases due to COVID, plus the other usual essential cases. Now, we have only, as I speak, we still have only 3,005 cylinder capacity in the country. Now, that means you have a deficit. That is at the peak, when you have now the 5,100 beds occupied, plus the others. You're going to have a deficit of 24,600 cylinders. Now, what we have done, which is supposed to be a short term, in the short term, we've got a supply. We have signed a contract to have what we call cryogenic tanks delivered into the country. This we expect latest by the end of November. We've had to go through a lot of bureaucracy in procurement. It delayed this. The last time I was here, I promised, I thought it was going to take a shorter time. But we have signed a contract to have 60,000 liter capacity cryogenic tanks delivered. Now, this is going to be installed at national medical stores. Then another 16,000 liter capacity cryogenic tank, cryogenic, that is liquid oxygen.
Okay.
Yeah, is going to be installed at Molago. Now, when these two tanks are installed, we are going to have transport tanks, which we call cryogenic transportation tanks, to basically import oxygen. We have liquid oxygen plants in Kenya. We have a small one in our facility in Nakasongola, but it's very small. But we are going to import liquid oxygen into the country and load into this tank of ours, and we convert it to gaseous oxygen. Now, when you have this volume of the tank, the 60,000 plus the 16,000, that means at any one time you're able to get 9,000 cylinders of gaseous oxygen, which can be quickly transported to the facilities around the country. But nonetheless, we also have some 4 oxygen plants that are on the way. We have already built their facilities, the buildings that are supposed to be used for their installation. Now, these are able to generate only about 300 cylinders of oxygen, plus the other 9,000. That is supposed to help us in November, December to January, as we set up other bigger plants. We have 3 stages in this approach.
Okay.
The first one I've talked of is called short term. You're going to have tanks, you install them, import the liquid oxygen. Now, liquid oxygen, when you have one cylinder, one liter of liquid oxygen, you're able to get 800 liters of gaseous oxygen. So it is easier to transport a small volume of liquid oxygen and expand it to gaseous oxygen. So that's the short term. Now, the medium term, which is medium and short, long term, we have signed contracts for the importation of oxygen plants. They are called PSA plants. PSA is basically
the pressure swing absorption plants?
Exactly.
Okay.
They are going to be installed in all the national and regional referral hospitals, 22 of them. Now, that 22 is capable of generating 5,000 cylinders of oxygen per day. I told you earlier there's 3,500 which exist. Now you are talking of 5,000. There's the other 9,000. You are talking of about 15,000 cylinders of oxygen in the country. So that we think should be able to take us through as we wait for a more long-lasting solution. That is the installation of cryogenic oxygen plants. So these are liquid oxygen plants that will be able to generate for us liquid oxygen, and we transport across the country.
And still on the cryogenic plants that you're talking about, you are talking about having them and then importing the liquid oxygen, which you did measure 1 liter of liquid to about 800 liters of gaseous oxygen. Is this importation going to be a one-off as we prepare to have our own permanent ones, or is it going to be a continuous importation given the fact of the variations between the liquid and the gaseous that we would need at a particular point in time?
Yeah, this is supposed to be short term. Now, the installation or the construction and installation of the cryogenic plant takes about 18 months.
Okay.
So that's the cryogenic plants. But the PSA plants, The first ones, we expect them done in December this year. The contract has been signed. We are not talking of, I'm not talking of procurement ongoing, no. The contract has been signed. The process of manufacturing of these plants has started. Now, what the listeners need to know is that because of COVID-19, the demand for oxygen-related equipment went up. We are still in a queue. The moment you make any order for oxygen plants, you are put in a queue. For example, we have about 16,841 oxygen cylinders that we have concluded procurement, but we are in a queue.
Won't this take forever? Like our vaccines that were procured took much longer.
It may not.
How would you convince a Ugandan out there
that this will not take forever?
that this will not take a very long time, as opposed to when we could have a third wave or not, because we cannot control?
Yeah, when we set ourselves to install the ICU equipment across the country, we went through the same. But as I speak, this ICU equipment were finally delivered. It took us a bit of time, but as I speak, this ICU equipment, we finally got them. The oxygen plants, if I give you money tomorrow, it costs about $1 million to have a 50 normal meter cube per hour. If I give you money tomorrow that we are now having challenges as government, we are not so good, you run out there and bring for me one. It will not take you less than 1 month, because they are not on the shelves for you to pick, to pay and pick. You must order for, and the process of manufacturing takes place. But it will not, the manufacturer, the supplier has promised. The good news is we have bought direct from the manufacturer.
Okay.
So we have been promised the first pieces in December. December, not now. This has to be very clear, and has given us up to March to have all this number supplied and installed.
We've heard about news of some cylinders coming in from Dubai expected in the month of November.
Yeah, the cylinders are the supplier from Dubai has a contract of 5,000.
Okay.
We inspected 3,000. Like I said also, these cylinders are also manufactured on order. But 3,000 have been inspected by our engineer from the ministry who traveled to Dubai. They are being loaded. We expect them in maybe 2 weeks, the time that it takes to move from Dubai to Kampala. So this has been a done deal. It was inspected, certified. So we expect them. I don't think it will go up to the end of November.
Okay.
Because it is out of the hands of the supplier. We have already picked from the supplier and given
It's in
to the transporter.
transit.
Yeah, yep.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, good news coming through, because if we have a capacity of 15,000 and yet need about 13,000 or thereabout, that would be supply superseding demand at the end of the day, which would be good. But until we achieve that, we will still be asking the questions. Dr. John Baptist, let's go to the issue of transportation. The oxygen will be used if I am already most likely if I am already in the hospital. Let's talk about ambulance services. Before we even go to the National Ambulance Service Scheme that you talked about, where do we stand currently? We see all sorts of ambulances, taxis turned into an ambulance, small vehicles turned into with the word ambulance. Where do we stand? Are these professional? Can they be able to transport critical patients to the hospitals?
Yeah, thank you, Mildred. The ambulance station has been one of undifferentiated forms of ambulances. Anybody can turn any vehicle in and label it an ambulance and keep moving. We have had stations of some of even a double cabin being labeled an ambulance. As I hinted before, most of the ambulances, even the standard well-designed ambulances, when they were assessed in 2018 by the School of Public Health, it was found that they do not have basic life support equipment. And if they don't have basic life support equipment, then that disqualifies them as offering an ambulance service. It just becomes a transport vehicle, a patient transport vehicle. So most of these vehicles you are seeing in in our country labeled as ambulances.
Even those given out by politicians?
Most of them are not ambulances. Of course, in the absence of a standard ambulance, they help to reach the patient to hospital. Some of them can make it to hospital, some cannot. But the world shift, the thinking from 2018 onwards is that can we have a formal ambulance system? And that is where we are driving ourselves to. I can say over 98% of the ambulances which existed before 2019 do not qualify because of lack of basic medical equipment to operate as ambulances. And that is where the real crisis is. What are we going to do? Because if the MP has bought these ambulances, and we are saying this vehicle called ambulance does not qualify to be an ambulance, then it becomes a very big problem.
So how is this ambulance scheme going to work? Are you now going to start telling us if you're an MP and you want to buy an ambulance, buy this particular one? Because we know there are cost implications to a specialized ambulance or one that would fit the billing of an ambulance.
Yes, the top management of the Ministry of Health approved the National Ambulance Service System, in which we are supposed to have two types of ambulances in this country. Okay. The Type B ambulance, which is a basic life support ambulance to be used for universal coverage, in which we shall have one ambulance per 100,000 population. Then the Type C ambulance is the advanced life support ambulance. It's a mobile intensive unit. This one is for transportation of patients who are severe or critical, who need advanced care. So there are these two groups of ambulances which have been approved, and we shall require that anyone who plans to buy an ambulance should be able to buy one of these. Of course, we have three forms of ambulances based on their mode. There are road ambulances, there are water ambulances, and there are air ambulances. For road ambulances, you can have the two types, and for universal, we require the basic life support. For water ambulances, the same, we can have the advanced life support and the basic life support. Then for the air ambulances, we usually use that for advanced life support, and they must be equipped to that extent. So anyone, a private sector worker, an MP, an individual, any person who says, I want to help my community, should be able to buy that ambulance which meets those standards. The ambulance...
And in case they don't, because you're seemingly making it harder for the MPs, because that's one of the ploys they've been using to promote themselves. So if it's about monies that I can't afford, are you trying to say as ministry, then don't buy the ambulance at all? Or what do you do?
The ambulance, the purchase of ambulances, actually the MPs help government. It is not part of their responsibility.
Yes.
It is not part. It is a support service where they say, where there is a gap here, let me come in and support.
And you're now making the support service harder.
That is why we are saying that when you want to support, you support with something which is going to really do the work it is supposed to do.
Okay.
We are just giving that guidance that they need, and of course, most have observed this gap that when they pick like a taxi and convert it into an ambulance, they have also seen that there is a problem. And most of the interactions we have had with the MPs in Parliament, they are also looking forward to standards. They want to have standards so that when they do something, it meets those standards.
Okay.
Where the question is now the current existing, which they have already bought for their areas. There is an option. One of it is that they can be upgraded and equipped into the standard. Others which don't...
At whose cost? I bought an ambulance as an MP,
Yes,
right?
yes.
There is this new National Ambulance Service Scheme that has come through. My ambulance doesn't meet the standard and it has to be upgraded with more equipment and everything. At whose cost is this upgrade going to be done?
This is something which is still under discussion.
Okay.
But if we fail to upgrade, then what we are going to advise is that that ambulance can be turned into, there are two options, can be turned into a funeral van to help the communities. It can also be turned into a people transport vehicle. So you can turn, so that we have, when we say it is an ambulance, actually it meets that need which we are looking out for.
All right. Let's talk about the management of the ambulances under this scheme, because like Engineer or Tim mentioned, there are different levels of healthcare service, and they all probably at one point in time need an ambulance at the end of the day. How are you going to deal with the management of these so many ambulances that we are planning to procure or upgrade?
Okay. When we did the census, there were 178 government ambulances which would not be able to meet the standard. There were 172 ambulances from the private sector, both PNFPs, private not-for-profit, private for-profit, MPs, and so on. Together there were 172.
Okay.
We advise that those can be upgraded, but these of government, when we assessed the issue of upgrade, we realize it is too costly and not cost effective. So what the Honorable Minister advised is a phase off. As we acquire new type B ambulances which meet the standard, we phase off the other odd ones, because under the Ministry of Works and Transport guidance, a government vehicle is to serve about 5 years. And for us, for ambulances, we have given them a maximum of 10 years of service. And most of the ambulances which we were counting, we found that they are above 10 years. So all this will be phased out and we'll replace them. Now, how we are going to manage them? In this National Ambulance Service, we are now setting up a regionally coordinated system in which ambulances will be commanded at 14 regional centers. If you reviewed the presidential promises of 2016-2020, one of them was to have a centralized command for ambulance vehicles. And we took this up in the health sector development plan 1, and also in the national development plan. The same in 2021-2025, again you find that the National Development Plan 3, we have indicated the need for us to establish 14 call and dispatch centers, the same in the Health Sector Development Plan. So these call and dispatch centers will become the coordination. We shall establish a communication system in which an ambulance, wherever it is, it's dispatched through this system.
So I just make a call as a Ugandan, I need
Yes.
an emergency ambulance, and it comes through?
Yes, you make a call, and that call will be received at the call and dispatch center, and the dispatcher on the screen, he will be able to see where the call is coming from, and all this will be self-recorded on this computer, and the nearest ambulance to you who is calling will also appear, and it will show its status. Is it occupied? Is it under use? If it is under use, which one is the next one? Then it shows the status, and then it's dispatched. Now, to bring it clearer, the ambulances, we have allocated them 1 per 100,000 population. That practically is 1 per constituency. Now, 1 per constituency, we are going to have them placed at one of the big centers or one of the easily accessible places within the constituency, and the management will decide whether it is a health center 3, health center 4, general hospital, one which can easily go to all sides but using more or less the same time, so that you get the middle point, and so that when the ambulance is dispatched, it doesn't take very long to reach the person who is calling.
Okay.
So that they are here, but ordered from a central level.
Maybe just one more before I go to Engineer Tim. You're talking about this call and dispatch center and the National Ambulance Scheme. Is this inclusive of all private and public ambulances, or does it only apply to the public ambulances?
100% public ambulances.
Okay.
Next is the private not-for-profit ambulances. Majority of those should be able to buy into this scheme. Then next to that will be the MP ambulances, call them NGO ambulances. Again, the MPs who express that they need to be within the national ambulance system, again, will be the ambulances will be assessed and admitted into the scheme.
So this time it's by choice to the scheme, but it is mandatory for the ambulance I am buying to fit the billing, but I can choose whether or not I belong to the scheme.
Yes.
All right. That makes it much easier. I'll be coming back to you, Dr. JB. I think that was very explanatory, and we are hoping that the call and dispatch center is one that comes up very, very quickly. But we'll also get to know how many ambulances we currently have, as opposed to how many we need in just a bit. Engineer Tim, still taking you back a little bit to the oxygen plants that we've talked about. One key issue that comes through is manpower, the human resource. And in this case are the engineers, the technicians that will be able to maintain the plants, plus the cylinders themselves in case they need some maintenance. Have we planned for this? Are we ready? Do we have them, or do we need some reskilling at the end of the day?
Yeah, as far as, thank you very much. As far as the human resource is concerned, I said we have 4 specialized hospitals in the country. We have 5 national referral hospitals. We have 15 regional referral hospitals. Now, all these facilities, from regional referral hospitals to specialized hospitals, have what we call maintenance workshop. That is biomedical equipment maintenance workshop. Now, these workshops are equipped with the tools or the infrastructure required for the maintenance of our medical equipment per given region. I'll take an example of Mbara. Mbara has a regional referral maintenance workshop with a qualified engineer and technicians who are responsible for the maintenance of not only the oxygen plants, but the other medical equipment also. Of course, we have had a dearth in the skills and the numbers. Now, with the new oxygen plants that are coming, in the contract itself, we are supposed to have technicians who are very soon traveling to Europe, to the factory where these machines are being manufactured. They are going to be trained to be able to access the software for these machines, to be able to dismantle and service or maintain them. Previously, what would happen, a supplier delivers equipment to the country, installs, and is given a contract to run for like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You've supplied equipment, you have installed, it has been commissioned, it's running. Now, you don't have the access to the software, you cannot troubleshoot, you cannot do anything much. So you simply call them. That the plant has gone down, come and service. This has given us a lot of challenges. Now, the new approach is whatever equipment we are going to buy, we shall have equivalent engineers and technicians to have the required training, and they should be able to maintain this equipment. We have had a number of cases where a plant breaks in Arua at midnight, and people are sick. You need oxygen. The supplier cannot travel from Kampala to Arua to go and service. And yet we have our engineers and technicians in that workshop. Now, that a regional workshop is supposed to service all the equipment. We don't have only medical plants, we have so many other equipment. There are certain equipments can reach 1,000 different types. So they have been servicing the small equipment and repairing them. But for the higher level equipment, for example, the oxygen plants, the CT scans, the MRI, X-rays, and so on, we have been relying on the suppliers. But that is coming to an end. It was a directive, and for us it was a plus. So that is what we are going for. Of course, the current equipment we have in the country, mechanical oxygen plants, are being serviced by the suppliers. And but the ones I've promised you, which we have already signed the contract for, we're going to have our technical team. Even if there's a problem with the technician in Jinja, we have another one in Mbale who can be transported very quickly to come and work on the one in Jinja. But
will the situation as well change for the current suppliers, that we are able to have them train our own engineers and technicians?
Yeah, the contract was designed in such a way that the contract...
Or until the contract elapses.
Exactly.
All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Wanyai, coming back to the issue of ambulances, we're talking about this scheme, but do we have adequate ambulances in the country? Parliament did release some billions of shillings a few months back, and this was to the health sector. We know we've had various budget cuts in the different sectors to support the health sector during this COVID-19 period. How many ambulances have we managed to procure at the end of the day?
Yeah, thank you, Mildred. Between 2019 and now, we have been able to procure 120 Type B and Type C ambulances. These 120 have been made good through funding from the government of Uganda, from multilateral agreements with the World Bank and other funding agencies, from development partners like Kofi, Koika, Enabel, UNFPA, IGAD. All these have made contributions. We have had other contributions which came in during COVID. We received from the Japanese, the Chinese, Indians, and our local community here. And so all that gave us about 120 ambulances. Out of these 120, 14 of them are bought ambulances, the marine ambulances.
Okay.
And out of the 14 bought, 3 are advanced life support, which are type C. Then out of the 104 road ambulances, 2 of them are advanced life support. Then when you look at the population, taking 1 per 100,000 people, we need, and also considering for type C, 1 per 2 million people, the estimated number of ambulances the country requires is 460 ambulances. So,
and how many do we have?
If we do not upgrade the existing 178, it means we currently have 120, which is a third of what we require.
Okay.
Because we had planned that we upgrade, but because of the advice we got, we are not going to upgrade, though right now we are supporting even the 178 to help to respond. But we need to procure another 340 ambulances to that effect.
And that's in how long? How long do we need to fill this gap?
This is planned within 3 years. We are going to have the gap filled. In this coming year, we have already secured funding to procure about 60 of them. And so we hope other funding modalities will come in so that we can procure others. Because our estimate for per year is about 110 for the next 3 years, so that we achieve the gap of 340.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. John Baptist Wanyaya. Thank you very much, Engineer Jojo Tim. We are not ending this. We are only taking a very short break. And the clarion call, at least out of the discussion we've so far had, is that the fact that members of parliament or politicians or private individuals who have procured ambulances that do not meet the standard according to the National Ambulance Scheme or Service Scheme, please come through to upgrade them, or else you may end up having your ambulance turn into a funeral service van at the end of the day. But we'll continue with the discussions not only about these, but also about the different specialized hospitals that we have, and a continued conversation about infrastructure development shortly after this break.
I smile when I think of you, Uganda, my home. My home, I dance when I look at you, Uganda, my home. Oh, my Uganda.
I know, with you I'll always stay forever. I know, because I feel that we belong together. My home. On my heart, mommy, oh my Uganda.
Hey, mama.
My Uganda.
Oh,
my Uganda.
oh,
my Uganda. My Uganda. Nigokone. My Uganda. Amari, Alemira. My Uganda.
At MTN, we look forward to starting another exciting journey together to grow our home, Uganda.
we can get closer to the normal way of life. Echa COVID-19 chija kugwa.
You know, you could just buy a new smartphone from anywhere in Uganda. Dial *175 *94 hash to activate their 100% double data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles for 3 months. Better yet, you automatically receive free 1 GB valid for 30 days. You are hooked already, aren't you? Enjoy a 100% double data bonus from Airtel. Buy a smartphone from anywhere in Uganda and insert an Airtel SIM card. Dial *175 *94 hash to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Dial *175 hash and select your preferred bundle to activate a 100% data bonus offer on weekly or monthly bundles, valid for 3 months. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Getting GoTV was the best decision James has ever made. Finding a good place to watch football was never easy, but it was costly until James discovered something big. Now he can finally enjoy the benefits of home-grown advantage with a decoder and 1 month of GoTV Valley. For just 25,000 shillings, enjoy the world's biggest leagues and cap competitions. GoTV Uganda, love it.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
The commissioner in charge of infrastructure development, and I do still have Dr. John Baptist Wanyaye, who is also the commissioner in charge of emergency medical services. And I will request once again, gentlemen, since we are much socially distanced, we could have our masks back off. Of course, during the break, the masks had to get back on because we were having a conversation, and that's just how far we are following the standard operating procedures. And my guests are free to have their standing position in our second segment. As and when you feel like sitting again, please, gentlemen, go ahead and be able to sit. Probably starting off with you again, Dr. John Baptist. In the second wave, we saw scenarios of having patients stuck in ambulances or still in ambulances parked outside, and some of them lost their lives right there, outside a hospital, in an ambulance, probably because they're waiting to secure a bed inside. How do we avert such a scenario, probably if we do get a third wave?
Yeah, thank you again, Mildred. That scenario was a very, very sad situation in the country, but it happened because COVID. The way COVID unfolded itself was totally unpredictable. At the very beginning, nobody thought that we are going to have so many severe and critical cases at the same time, such a close time, and that was the cause of the problem. So the way we have now planned is to have an institutionalized call and dispatch system. We have set up teams so that people can be able to call. Even if right now we do not have a universal access number, but we have numbers which people can call on, be they hospitals, the community. These numbers are regionalized. They are for the regional emergency medical services coordinators. So when you call that number, then these teams come and they are able to pick this patient and also link with the hospital, assessing for availability of space. Most of the patients whom you saw getting stranded in ambulances in Mulago, actually they were coming from other hospitals, which meant that they were already on hospital beds. But because they needed a higher level of care, they decided to refer them, but without getting clarity that there is an available bed space, say in Mulago. So now we have bridged this gap by having our coordinators coordinate with the admitting facility, like the COVID-19 treatment unit in Mulago. So if there is a patient to be transferred and it requires intensive care unit bed, then the details of this patient are sent to Mulago and an inquiry is made, do we have a bed for this type of patient? Now, if we do not have a bed, then this patient is meant to hold within the hospital where he is. Because it's better when you are within the hospital, you will receive better care compared to, because our ambulances have small oxygen cylinders. These oxygen cylinders are time bound. So if one is going to wait maybe for 1 hour or more, and the oxygen cylinder is going to last maybe 40 minutes or 30 minutes, that means that this patient is going to run out of oxygen. And when he runs out of oxygen, again, you need another oxygen cylinder, which may not be available at that point in time, and that can eventually lead to the death of the patient. So this coordination helps to bridge that gap. The other part is what Engineer Tim was talking about, the issues of increasing the number of available ICU beds. And not just available, but also functional. By functional, we mean they have the right staff, and all the equipment, all the medicines which one needs to use on that ICU bed are available. So the functional beds in our hospitals increase in number. And also the COVID-19 strategic, the National Strategic Committee approved more hospitals nearer to people, other general hospitals, to be able to admit COVID-19 patients. What does this do? This helps patients, instead of deteriorating when they are probably at home, they are able to be in a general hospital and they are observed. And the doctor can easily detect that the patient is deteriorating. Because what happened is our patients would be at home, and because COVID-19, someone can deteriorate without realizing is deteriorating. Some of them have been making those calls when they are already in a severe or critical need of oxygen, and that creates a very difficult scenario. The other part in which we are managing that process is to make sure that the regional referral hospitals provide more advanced care compared to what they were doing in phase 2. That is why we have had the the trainings of critical care nurses and the recruitment of intensivists and anesthesiologists to make sure that those regional hospitals are more functional and at a higher level.
Okay.
Even these oxygen plants Engineer team is talking about is aimed at increasing the oxygen capacity in those areas so that their intensive care unit beds are fully functional.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. JB. Engineer Tim, let me take you back a little bit to the statistics that you gave us of the different health facility levels that we do have. Now, talking about general hospitals, practically at district levels, many at times, the question that comes through is what's the determinant factor for a district to acquire a general hospital? Because some districts have complained about having a huge capacity that they have to come through, especially border districts that have to be shared, even with other communities across or outside of Uganda. What do you use to determine what district gets a general hospital?
Yeah, one of the factors we use, and the most important factor, is normally the population. We give it a weight of 60%. Now, health center 3s are expected to serve a population of up to 20,000 people. Now, the moment it goes to beyond 20,000 people, that sub-county could be having 60,000. That means the sub-county qualifies for 2 health center 3s or even 3. So the determinant is normally the population. Health center 3s are meant to serve up to 20,000 people. Health center 4s are meant to serve up to 100,000. General hospitals serve up to 500,000. Now, the regional referral hospitals are meant to serve up to 2 million people. Those are the regional referral hospitals. And then the national referral hospitals serve up to 10 million. So, if a health center 4 is currently serving anything close to 5,000, it means that district or that health center 4 qualifies to
500,000.
Qualifies to be converted to a general hospital.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a bit political. We have been to so many health center 4s, and the demand is for general hospitals.
Okay.
Even a place, I was recently in a district which has 172,000 people, and they want a general hospital. No, a general hospital is for a population of up to 500,000 people.
We've had, for case in point, Hoima, which has bought the regional referral, and yet the district complains of lack of a general referral hospital. The regional is used as a general referral hospital, and yet also crisscrosses, populations from the different districts coming through.
Yeah, we have had that problem, although I will pass it later to the doctor to help me, including Kampala. You know, Mulago, I've just said Mulago is a national referral hospital, but we go for general cases. In a recent case, we had 125 babies delivered from Kawempe, and the children were displayed on chairs and everywhere.
Yes.
When management from the Ministry of Health visited the hospital, it was found that out of the 125 babies that were delivered that night, actually about 110 were normal deliveries that were supposed to be taking place at health center 3s. So maybe the question would be, why do people prefer to go direct? Somebody who is supposed to go for normal delivery, move straight to a general hospital or to a regional referral hospital instead of starting from a health center 3. One, it could be due to lack of information. People might not be exactly sure of where to go exactly, so they think they want to go to a bigger
we
facility.
trust the bigger as opposed to the smaller ones.
Exactly. So that could be lack of information, because if you've gone to the health center 3s and it is normal pregnancy and you don't have any complication, there's no need why you should go to even health center 4. And that is weakening our referral system. It is weakening the referral system, because you go to Mbarara Regional Referral Hospital, people have lined up for malaria treatment. People have lined up for typhoid. That's where the problem is. Of course, there are some cases where you find that there's a laxity in a facility and people are not able to get the services they want. People will move across to where they want, where they have heard of better services. So there's that option where people think, here, we have not been able to be helped, so we are going to the place where we can get help. Yeah.
And that I will as well give a chance to Dr. John Baptist to respond. We've seen this happening severally, and yet we continue to remind Ugandans that we have health service levels from Health Center 3 all the way to the super specialized hospitals, but there is always complaint of work overload at some of the levels.
Yeah, as Engineer has put it, we have a broken down referral system where there is a lot of self-referral. Most of the patients refer themselves to the regional referrals and to the national referral hospitals. But back to the capital city here. The capital city, we have a problem of population. The population here is very high, and the number of health facilities, public health facilities, is low. Over 80% of the health facilities here are private, which means that people must contribute something. Yet, the largest part of the population are people who may not afford to make that contribution, or may not be willing if they can afford. So what the target now, after having Naguru return into the National Referral Hospital, Kawempe into the National Referral Hospital, and Chirudo into a National Referral Hospital, the same with Mulago and Mulago women, the ministry is thinking of supporting KCCA to have other health center fours rise up in those places, and also general hospitals, so that this can act as an incentive to take people to those other facilities and decongest the national referral hospitals.
Okay.
But so far as it stands now, the situation is still very difficult. The other part in our policy is that even when you're a national referral hospital, the people in that village, the people near you, should utilize you as a primary facility. The people around. So you don't need to have Mulago, and on the side is Health Center 2, Health Center 3, Health Center 4, and they are all flowing around Mulago.
Okay.
But people abuse that in the sense that someone moves from Mukono, is a case of a Health Center 3, but moves to Mulago. That is wrong. It is only these people who stay maybe in the quarters in Mulago, those LC ones around there, they are the ones supposed to utilize Mulago as their primary facility.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Wanyaye. Coming back to you, Engineer Tim, we've heard and we know that there's been some upgrade from Health Center 2s to Health Center 3s, but there are also reports of some sub-counties that actually do not have Health Center 3s. How possible is that, and how is that going to be averted?
Yeah, it is true. The policy is now for every sub-county to have a health center 3, or at least be able to serve a population of up to 20,000 people. When the project of upgrade of health center 2s to health center 3 started, we had 331 facilities to be upgraded. The first thing was to start with those sub-counties that had the facilities. That means the land is there. So we began with the 124 facilities in 2018-2019. In the subsequent years, we upgraded another 62. That was in 2019-2020. In 2020-2021, we upgraded another 64. Now, in the year 2021-2022, that is this year, we expected to upgrade 41 plus 46, that is 41 plus 46, that is 87, eh? Yeah. 87. Those are the facilities that are expected to be upgraded this year. However, like I earlier said, there are sub-counties where the population kept on growing beyond, and these sub-counties were divided into, we got new sub-counties. You go to a sub-county and the population is 63,000 people. Others are up to 80,000. These sub-counties were subdivided. Some were subdivided into 3 sub-counties. So this created new sub-counties that do not have health facilities. In total, there are 138 across the country. And in the financial year 2021-2022, we have in plan and the budget and the money to construct 12 new for the start, in addition to the other 87 I've talked of. So this year we're basically going to upgrade 87 plus 12 new facilities in as one of the 138. Now,
so that's a plan for about 99 health center upgrades
in 2021-2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
then in the subsequent years, we intend to keep on rolling until we finish the 138. The prayer is that they don't create more sub-counties very quickly.
Okay.
And maybe the population also doesn't blossom very quickly, so that we are able to contain the 20,000 number per facility. Otherwise, if it goes beyond 20,000, that's what causes this other migration from a facility to the next. And yet some of these cases are able to be handled at Health Center 3. Okay. So we are moving on really with the upgrade and construction of new facilities.
All right, thank you very much. Now, coming back to the issue of human resource at the different levels, and human resource comes in line with the standard of living. Dr. Wanyaye, I'm coming to you. Do we have the human resource that's needed at the different levels of healthcare?
It is a yes and no. According to the approved human resource for health structure, on average, the country has a staffing of 75%. That ordinarily would be fair service. But this human resource for health structure is odd. It was put when the population was around 20 million. Now we are more than twice that population. So having realized that, the ministries of health, Ministry of Public Service and local governments, we have been on the drive of these structures are revised so that they answer to the needs of the current population. Again, we have had a changing disease burden. We have now a mix of non-communicable and communicable diseases, which if you reference to back 20 years, you will find that the needs were different from now. Again, this year you have seen what COVID-19 has created. It multiplied the demand for human resource about 10 times. So the current human resource we have cannot sufficiently serve the needs, the demands of today. That's why we urgently need to the structure approved and we recruit other staff. Luckily enough, the human resources exist within the country.
Okay.
The Uganda Medical Association and Ministry of Health, when they interacted with His Excellency the President, they presented the dispositions, and the President has given directives to that effect, that we can have all the doctors absorbed into service from Health Center 3 onwards. But a doctor does not work alone. If you send a doctor alone to a Health Center 3 and you don't put their nurses, you don't put their pharmacists, you don't put their the laboratory teams, then that doctor will be idle. because he works in a team. So when this directive was given, the ministries are now working out a structure which can lead this country to have a functional human resource system.
Okay.
And I think if resources are available, then by 2022 we should be speaking of a good human resource staffing, because most of our health workers are getting burnout. One midwife you find in a day is attending to over 10 to 20 mothers, and that is too much, because if 10 of these mothers are delivering, or even if there are 5 delivering, then about 10 or 20 are attending antenatal. In some health facilities, even up to 50, some health centers 3s. So you find a midwife is completely finished day and night, day and night, day and night. So we need to address this problem as urgently. And what I can tell the viewers out there is that government has realized all these gaps, and the plans are in place to fill the gaps in the human resource.
Thank you very much. Engineer Tim, human resource, standard of living, infrastructure could be intertwined in one statement. I, for one, grew up in a hospital quarters. And the question now comes through to the standard of living with regard to accommodation of the staff that we need at the different levels of at the different levels of healthcare, because some will have to trek distances, and that's why one of the times when the permanent secretary was touring some of the health centers, he found them locked as early as 9 or 10 or late as 9 or 10, because there has to be a travel over a long distance. How far are we planning for accommodation of our health workers?
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to begin by answering one of the questions about the human resource. I want to inform the nation that the 331 health center 2s that were upgraded to health center 3s are the package for full recruitment of for the structure of health center 3. So each year we go to upgrade a facility from health center 2 to health center 3. We go with the funding for the construction, we go with the funding for the medical equipment, and then there's full funding for the recruitment of the staff to the required level. Leave alone the others that could be having a gap, but the new ones we have constructed, we have the full funding for the required structure, which is 19 health workers for health center 3. Okay, regarding the staff accommodation, that is one of the issues that is hot on my table and on everybody's table. We have been to facilities. In fact, I was in one of the facilities in Omoro, and one of the ladies who had come for the antenatal was like, you need to start with the staff houses, because for us when we come and these health workers are around, even if the maternity is not there, they're able to help us out. This is well captured in the NDP 3, and we have begun the process. Now, I've just talked of the infrastructure, the medical buildings. I've talked about the human resource. I've talked about the equipment. One of the things that we are also addressing in this upgrade has been the construction of the staff quarters, but that has been a peanut. We have just been putting one unit for 2 staff, for 2 health workers. It is on the table. We are basically trying to identify funding so that we can do as much as possible. Our target is to at least accommodate 50% of the health workers at the facility, and that constitutes, I think, the critical number. Yeah. We have the critical health medical workers that must stay at the facility. So if by the time we have 50%, and in our plan it's very clear, in 5 years, that should be one of the things that will be dealt with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good plan. We're waiting for that one. Dr. Wanyaye, coming back to you on human resource, the reason why part of them could probably not be at particular levels of health facilities because they either have their own health facilities or because of the not so huge a salary that they consider to receive in government as opposed to private healthcare facilities, they keep crisscrossing, what one would call moonlighting, between private health facilities and the public facilities. What is the ministry doing about this? Because the same doctors we find in the private healthcare facilities are the same in government.
Yeah. Thank you, Mildred. That is a very, very difficult area, but very critical, because when a health worker is in the private facility, then it means he's not being available at a public facility. This issue has been discussed. The Right Honorable Prime Minister now, when she was the Minister of State for General Duties in Health, she took on this matter very seriously and gathered all the issues concerning with the particular reference to Mulago National Referral Hospital, and she discussed this matter with His Excellency. And the guidance which was given then was that the salaries of the health workers are going to be raised to a level in which the government and the health workers themselves will agree that there is no moonlighting. You would agree to either remain with government or do your private service. We had wanted it to start immediately, but when the ministers came back to report in top management, they said the president had advised that the first thing to be done is raise the salaries.
Okay.
Then you take on the measures which had been recommended, and that's why it is being held on. As you remember, I think it was in 2015. That was the first time when the proposal of stopping dual employment was made. And still it was the same reason, saying, do we have adequate money to compensate a doctor or a health worker so that he doesn't need to moonlight? But it was realized at that time we were not ready.
Dr. Wanyaye, out of your research, sorry for cutting you short, do you only find remuneration as the only reason why there is a lot of moonlighting, or are there other factors? And if you think you are going to address the aspect of money, do you think you would have dealt out with moonlighting? Don't you fear at some point in time you may lose some of these who will probably choose private over the government facilities?
Other push factors for moonlighting include availability of medical equipment, availability of medicines and supplies. These are things which Engineer has been talking about, because we are filling those gaps. For the last about 3 years, the target of the permanent secretary is to address the issue of equipping health facilities, and I think Engineer will clarify on this. We think that by, I think, 2022, we shall be having adequate equipment. Then government has also been increasing allocation of budget for medical supplies to national medical stores. So these gaps which we see in essential medicines and health supplies will be filled. And then the other part you talked about, the issues of accommodation. All these are push factors for people to go into the private sector. Another one is social amenities, especially people who work up country. So whenever we have a functional health center, Ingrid team will tell you sometimes even things like TV, internet, what become critical, because a health worker needs that in order to stay in that facility. So the biggest on the health work agenda is they need to be compensated for the loss which they will incur when they close their private facilities.
Okay. And maybe engineer or Tim will be just giving a bit of clarification to that or adding on that. But also engineer or Tim, earlier we talked about the social life, the social amenities in some of these health facilities. What is government also doing about the outdated infrastructure? Dr. Wanyai was talking about outdated ambulances being phased out. How about the outdated infrastructure at some of these health facilities? I look back at the hospital where I grew up, including the very medical quarters, and they're in a sorry state, including the hospital itself.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to call it updated. Okay, we have basically three types of infrastructure. Now you're talking of the buildings that are dilapidated or worn out, and then you could be talking of the medical equipment, which you can call them obsolete or updated. Now for the medical equipment, once they become obsolete, the manufacturer stops even manufacturing the spare parts. So naturally, you must dispose it out, because it will not function. I have about 84 Philips equipment across the country. Those are very expensive X-rays, but we bought them 18 years ago. Now, the lines for their spare parts are not there anymore. So even when they are functioning, being a third world country, they are still functioning. Those are the non-digital X-rays where you after taking an image, you have to go to a dark room and print and come out. Now, the moment a small part gets broken, that machine is thrown out because naturally you're not going to be able to replace. So we are really in the process of working on building the capacity in terms of the medical equipment. For example, we have a 5-year plan of working on the imaging equipment across the country. And we have started with the regional and national referral hospitals. In this fiscal year, we have funding. The procurement is ongoing for buying CT scanners. These CT scanners we are buying for all the regional referral hospitals across the country. And you know, CT scanners is a cutting-edge equipment in terms of the X-ray imaging. We are going to install them in all those regional referral hospitals, starting from Kabale to Arua and Moroto. That should be able to handle the diagnosis using imaging to a very substantial degree. In the subsequent years, we have planned to have X-ray machines procured for still the general hospitals, national referral hospitals, regional referral hospitals, up to Health Center 4. The Health Center 4s, we are going to start with the ultrasounds, but there are those Health Center 4s that are operating at the level of general hospitals. Like when you look at Kira Health Center 4, it serves a population of 500,000. And I just told you that for a facility to qualify to be upgraded, population is one of those factors we consider. Poverty is one of them, distance, availability of other facilities around the area. Now Kira serves over 500,000 people. Now Kira is in Wakiso with already some number of general hospitals. And Wakiso doesn't have a general hospital. It has Entebbe, which has been upgraded to a regional referral hospital. Wakiso has been given a general hospital, but because of politics, it cannot be at Kira. They are yet to give us where it is going to be constructed. It is true when you go across the country, all our facilities were constructed in 1950s, 1960s, and all of them have been worn out because of, first of all, poor maintenance and economy and other factors. We have started the process of upgrading them, rehabilitating. You could have heard of Kayunga. It was a general hospital.
Yes.
It was upgraded as a general hospital, but when it became better than most of the regional referral hospitals, the demand came up for it to be converted to a regional referral hospital. We also rehabilitated Yumbe. We have just rehabilitated Gombe, and the process of rehabilitation is ongoing. The next one we are moving to Busolwe in this financial year, that is 2021, 2022. And the moment we upgrade them, we upgrade them to the level of Kawolo or Kayunga. So the process is ongoing. We are only limited by the envelope, the size of the envelope. COVID came around the corner. It has distorted all the plans. When you look at the investment, when you look at the cost of treating COVID, it has eaten all the resources that we would have used to actually upgrade so many facilities or renovate. We are very aware of the state of these facilities. We are working on them slowly by slowly, and we shall get there.
Well, most Ugandans thought that it was much better now, since we are having budget cuts from all the other, sectors and going to the health facilities or health sector. But anyway, it's always different thought than it is done. Dr. Wanyaye, let's talk about specialized hospitals in the country. Earlier on, of course, Engineer Tim gave us an update about some of the specialized ones. But do the people even know about these specialized hospitals? And key, on top of the agenda is always issues of affordability. As Ministry of Health, are you thinking about this? Because if I look at a bronze package thereabout, which is about 800,000 shillings at Mulago, that is the neonatal hospital, is 800,000 probably, even if it were 500,000, could this be an affordable package for a common Ugandan if they need to use that specialized hospital?
The specialized hospitals, most of the hospitals were the 5 specialized hospitals. They have been developed to answer the gap of advanced care which has been missing in the country. Like you are talking about Mulago Women and Neonatal Hospital. It is answering that gap, but it has a window, because affordability is one of the issues if you are going to serve our citizens. It has a window for those who have been in a public facility and have been referred because they need specialized care. You have like that hospital, I'll give you like an example. They have a ward there which they call Kawempe ward. Okay. Why is it called Kawempe ward? Because if you are a patient who opted to go to Kawempe and you delivered from Kawempe and your complication requires you to be in the Mulago Specialized Women and Neonatal Hospital, you'll be sent there on that ticket. And when you're admitted in that Kawempe ward, it means you don't pay. It is, that compensation is made on the government bill. Even if you went into the high dependence unit or intensive care unit. So there is always that window. Of course, that is not happening in all hospitals. The specialized units we have, like still Uganda Heart Institute, there is also a window for those who cannot afford. When you go to Mulago Specialized itself, not yet fully functional, but those options exist. But the issue of affordability remains a question which we have got to keep discussing as Ugandans. How do we make health services affordable? Because health services, when you consume them, someone must pay for them. And this is the reason why Minds had thought about the National Health Insurance Scheme. Because this is the only way in which other countries have afforded to manage health services. If for instance, if the National Health Insurance Scheme pays for 70% of your bills. This other 30% can be easily met by the consumer himself or herself. So we need to still think, and I hope maybe it will come back again to the table for our leaders to consider.
All right. Engineer Tim, coming back to the specialized hospitals that we do have, you could take those back once again. For example, you talked about a children's surgical hospital that was completed some time back. I think it's this particular year. When we look at these super specialized hospitals and the specialized hospitals, for example, we know that the Cancer Institute is a center of excellence. How does Uganda, gain out of having such in terms of away from just serving its own populace?
Yeah, thank you. Like the doctor said, these hospitals are being developed to fill the gaps that existed. We have statistics on how many Ugandans have been leaving the country to go to India for cancer treatment, to go to India for heart-related treatment.
Unfortunately, those are the well-to-do.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. But all the same, they have been moving. And the thinking is that once these facilities become fully operational, even if they were for payment, these Ugandans, I don't think, would love to move to India and spend a lot of money there. You stay there for 2 months to recover and then come back. So that is a very big gap that is going to be filled. Yeah, but we have some hopes. I've just told you about the Children's Surgical Hospital, the regional surgical hospital, which is in Entebbe. It is 100% free. You need to just be referred from Kabale Hospital. You need to be referred from Moroto. You need to be referred from Arua, from Gulu, that your case is for a specialized surgery. That child will be taken to Entebbe, treated for free. The mother will stay with the child there for, even if it is 3 months or 4 months, they will transport you back home. So, whereas we are paying at the women's hospital a lot of money, yeah, you can deliver from there and cross to Entebbe, where you're going to get free services. I'm also aware the Cancer Institute, you pay very little if there's any payment, because I've been there for some time. It is only some drugs which are not there that you pay. I think the Cancer Institute is one of those facilities that Ugandans are getting free services from.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the others, the cost, like the doctor said, the health services are expensive. The consumables are very, very expensive, to the extent that the state may not even afford some. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing.
All right, our time is really fast spent, but maybe first of all, let me get to Dr. Wanyaye. A little back, one on social media is asking issues of evacuation ambulances. Air ambulances, you've talked about the road, you've talked about the boat ambulances, but how about the air ambulances? Sometimes some patients are in critical condition, and the quickest, fastest, and safest means would be an air ambulance. But many of these belong to UPDF and Uganda Police Force, and they're asking how accessible are these ones? And also they talk about having issues of for example, the boat ambulances in island districts, they say these were given to UPDF and not necessarily the districts. How do they get to access them to?
Yeah. Thank you again, Mildred. The issue of air ambulances is well captured in our strategic plan. For now, our plan is to make use of the Uganda People's Defense Air Force. They have some of these Airbuses which we can make use of, and also the Uganda Police for now. But in the strategic plan, we have planned to have 5 ambulances to cover the big regions of the north, east, central, west, and Albertine region. Albertine region, for the reasons you know, we are going to have a lot of traffic in that place because of oil exploration, so it is prudent that we have a civilian bus there. when the minister presented this to His Excellency, we wanted to actually work more with the UPDF to cover especially the aeromedical services. His Excellency advised the minister that we need to develop a civilian aeromedical service, and that is what we are going to work on. And as you know, aeromedical services are quite expensive, so I'm yet to have interaction to see what cost it takes. You have seen in the last COVID-19 evacuations, one of the patients we evacuated from Barara using a private ambulance, it costed 54 million, just one journey. So it is very expensive, but we are going to make plans for that. Then on boat ambulances, we out of the planned 15, we were able to procure 14, and 7 of them are in country, and we have distributed them to specific sites. We have been doing assessment of the districts for the docking sites for these boat ambulances, and we have had agreements with districts to that effect. Ministry of Health developed a joint marine ambulance management framework with ministries of Defense, Ministry of Works, and Ministry of Transport. This was informed by the fact that Ministry of Health, we were lacking professional staff who could, the navigators and the coxswains who could be in these boats, and they were existing with the UPDF.
Okay.
We were also not owning docking sites, and these are being owned by either the UPDF or Ministry of Works and Transport or the local government. So we had got to agree with all these members. We have already secured fuel and put in these ambulances, and by end of the month, all the boat ambulances which are in the country will be in their specific docking sites within districts.
All right. Well, our time is really fast spent, but the last few parting shots, I'll start off with you, Engineer Jojo Tim. First, before your parting shots, what are some of the challenges to health infrastructure development?
Yeah, thank you. I think the biggest problem has been the funding because of the thin size of the envelope, but two, I think we also have a poor maintenance culture. We have facilities, we put in place a very well done facility like Yumbe, like the one of Kayunga, but even when you make a plan, maintenance plan, it is never implemented. Why? Most of the time you request for money for the maintenance. You don't get it because of that. I guess because of the size of the envelope. In terms of the equipment, we've also had a similar problem of poor maintenance culture and sometimes misuse. You go to a facility, a machine which is supposed to work under AC, just the AC has been turned down or it has got a problem. The people inside there, the medics, will go and use the equipment, and that machine is spoiled. For example, a CT scanner cannot work without the air conditioners. The moment you use it for 3 hours without the AC, it is dead. And it costs, these machines are very expensive. A good MRI machine can cost about 6 billion. A CT scanner costs about 1.6 billion. These are costs that people don't know. So we need to use this equipment very well. We need to take care. We need to be able to maintain. We need to be able to use them well.
Okay.
We need to be able to sustain. So the problem is that we don't take this equipment as very precious equipment and guard them so that they can serve the country for long. My prayer is that we need to improve on the envelope for maintenance of our facilities. When you look at those buildings you have complained about, built in the 50s, most of them are still able to be touched up, and it serves the purpose for which they were built.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Engineer Tim. You seem to have had so many prayers, and I will add another prayer that we get to respond to these prayers by acting. I will end off with you, Dr. John Baptist Wanyaye, with your parting shots.
Yeah. Thank you, Mildred, and thank you, viewers. My appeal to the population, especially those who are involved in the education. We still have a challenge. The emergency care response requires staff. These staff do not exist in the country. People like emergency physicians, the emergency medical technicians, the paramedics, they are not being trained in the country, and the training institutions need to think about these courses if we are going to have the emergency care response in this country improved. The other part is the issue of abuse. I would like to call on the general population that the abuse of use of ambulances needs to end. We need, whenever you see an ambulance moving, it is either rushing to move and pick that critical patient, or is actually transporting the patient to hospital.
But doctor,
so I appeal.
We saw during COVID-19 some were arrested transporting foodstuff in the ambulances.
Those are the ones which, that is part of the abuse. Those are the people we must discipline. But I'm talking about the normal use of the ambulance, which I appeal to the general population to always give way to the ambulance so that people can reach those who need this care in time. Because I'll give an example. There is a man who delayed an ambulance, but the ambulance was rushing to his home. But he blocked the ambulance. He kept blocking. He was also rushing to his very home to respond to an emergency. He went and reached home. Then, because he had blocked for him, he reached earlier. Then the ambulance followed him. But when he reached, he couldn't do anything to the patient. And when the ambulance team reached to help the patient, they were a minute late. And on the way to hospital, the patient passed on. But this guy never forgave himself, because he saw and he actually stopped and started quarreling. So they spent time. And so that's why I'm calling upon Ugandans that we need to support the emergency response in the country. Thank you so much.
All right, it's been a pleasure having you. Thank you very much, Dr. Wanyaye John Baptist, who is the Commissioner in charge of Emergency Services, Emergency Medical Services at the Ministry of Health. And to you, Engineer George Otim, Commissioner in charge of Infrastructure Development, thank you so much as well for coming through. Beautiful plans that are underway. We will only wait for the implementation at the end of the day. And that's all we had time for on Spotlight UG tonight, discussing health infrastructure development. We will still have the Ministry of Health next week, and it will be a totally different discussion altogether. Thank you for being a wonderful audience. Good evening. Well, it's already good morning. I cannot say good evening, but good morning, and God bless you.
Also have enough air.
It is intellectually engaging.
And you can only become a leader when there are problems.
I like that.
The same applies to
to Rwanda, Burundi. So what are we federating?
Whether rats from another country can be, I mean, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
But at the moment, we would rather deal with what we have, make it right.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell him Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
Deeply incisive.
The different political forces